On here, the Seattle Children's Hospital put out kind of a list of some talking points and some suggestions, and I thought this one was the most compelling and I think the most relevant to me, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. It says, quoting here, listen more than you talk and truly hear what your child is saying. Be aware that your child may not want to problem solve. They may just want to be heard and accepted. Be curious. They just want someone to listen, Asra.
Yeah, I think everybody needs somebody to listen, right? And there's this poem that I just thought about when you were reading that, and it's about this idea that our children are mirrors of ourselves, and that oftentimes the children also need us to just be there to be a mirror in their own lives, to be able to reflect for them what is happening to them. Some of the most important words that I think we can say to them is, how can I help you? But also, how do you feel? And I have witnessed so much tragedy now over the last few
Yeah.
years, Trace. I am waiting for you to talk to you. I was remembering standing burial side at the suicide of a classmate of my son's, and then at the cremation of another classmate.
Yeah.
There's so much tragedy happening right now for these kids. And the best concept that I learned from a psychologist friend of mine, Orly Petter, is that our brain health, which is what I call it, because it's all about our brain and what's happening, is so tied to our sense of self. And especially for kids, it's so important that we give them that
Right.
unconditional love so that they build a great sense of self.
Yeah, you talk about psychologists and mental health experts, and a woman named Melissa Moran says the following, quoting here, and it kind of folds into what we've been saying. There's so many things that are typical with teens that aren't necessarily cause for concern, like general moodiness and fighting with parents. Parents don't know when it's cause for concern and what's more normal. So I think understanding that line is super important, and I get it, but it's really hard, Osford, to understand where that line is because you worry so much, right? You worry about your kids so much, and when they're having a problem, it's hard to say, that's just normal stuff.
Yeah, one of the strongest points that I want to make for folks is that we have to always have treatment before tragedy happens. I haven't spoken much about this. A lot of people know me as this fierce mama bear. But the reason why I got into this work was to protect kids. And Trace, my first volunteer work at my son's high school was for the Health and Wellness Committee, because some 40 years ago, my brother got ill when he was a teenager. And so for these 4 decades, I have seen how important treatment is. And early intervention is so critical. I want to just encourage everyone to do this training that I did. It's sort of like CPR for the brain. It's
Yeah.
called first aid, mental health first aid. And
Mental health
there's
first.
volunteer training all over the country. There's specific training for youth and
Yep.
also for adults. But the more trained we are and the more educated we are, the better we can get them help when they
Yeah.
need it.
Great stuff. Great insight. Asra Nomani, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Trace. Thanks for caring about all these kids.